Ladies and gentlemen, fight fans around the world, UFC Shanghai delivered absolute fireworks, and if you missed it live, don't worry, we've got you covered with all the results, highlights, and stories that shaped this historic night. The card opened at an unusual hour for American viewers, but the early wake-up call was worth every second. From brutal knockouts to slick submissions and razor-close decisions, UFC Shanghai proved once again that the octagon knows no borders. China hosted its first UFC event in nearly 8 years, and the energy inside Shanghai Indoor Stadium was electric. Fans roared for their hometown heroes. International fighters showcased their skills, and together they created one of the most memorable fight night events of the year. Let's dive deep into what happened and why these results matter moving forward. The story of the night started with Yi Zha, a featherweight from China who entered the card looking to rebound after a tough loss in his UFC debut. Facing Westin Wilson, an American fighter who had requested to compete overseas, Yi wasted no time in giving fans exactly what they came for. Just 37 seconds into round 1, Yi landed a crushing left hand that rocked Wilson and set off a flurry of wild punches. Wilson tried to recover, climbing back to his feet, but Yi smelled blood and went in for the finish. His relentless swarm forced Wilson down again, leaving the referee no choice but to step in and save him. It was a blitzkrieg-style finish that had the crowd on their feet and gave Yi Zha his first official UFC victory after graduating from the Road to UFC program. This victory was more than just another knockout. For Yi Zha, it was about validation, proof that he belongs on the UFC roster after twice reaching the finals of the Road to UFC tournaments. He credited his team afterward, thanking them for the preparation that allowed him to capitalize against the taller Wilson. For fans in China, it was an emotional win as their fighter put on a show in front of a roaring crowd. Yi not only silenced the doubters who questioned his readiness for the big stage, but he also made a strong case for a post-fight bonus. For Wilson, this fight will serve as a painful reminder that traveling overseas to hostile territory can be a gamble, and on this night, it backfired in spectacular fashion. The Bantamweight division also got its spotlight when SuYoung You of South Korea faced China's Xiao. Both fighters had momentum from their road to UFC runs, but it was Yu who stood out with a disciplined and technical performance. Across the first 2 rounds, he consistently outlanded Long, using sharp strikes and clean movement to frustrate the local favorite. Long, known for his late fight surges, tried to rally in the third with an elbow-heavy attack, but Yu matched his output and refused to let him steal the momentum. When the scorecards were read, all 3 judges awarded the fight to Yu by unanimous decision, marking his second straight UFC victory and extending his unbeaten streak to 6 fights. For SuYoung You, this was an important statement win. By defeating Xiao on enemy soil, he not only proved his composure under pressure, but also positioned himself as a serious prospect in the Bantamweight division. His striking looked crisp, his cardio held up through all 3 rounds, and his decision-making was on point. That combination makes him a difficult opponent for anyone on the rise. For Xiao, the loss was disappointing, especially in front of a supportive crowd, but he showed toughness in fighting to the final bell. With continued development, he still has potential, but for now, it's Yu who takes the spotlight as one of the breakout names from UFC Shanghai. The prelims also delivered one of the night's most unique finishes, as Uran Satybaldiev defeated Diyar Nurgozhay in their light heavyweight contest. Early in the fight, Satybaldiev dropped Nurgozhay with strikes and immediately went on the hunt for submissions. After nearly finishing with a Kimura, he transitioned into guard and shocked fans by locking in an Ezekiel choke, a submission most famously used by heavyweight veteran Alexei Olenek. Nurgozhay had no choice but to tap at 2:45 of round 1, giving Satybaldiev a highlight reel win. This marked his first UFC victory after losing his debut at heavyweight earlier this year, and it re-established him as an intriguing contender at 205 pounds. Satybaldiev's performance stood out not just because of the win, but because of the creativity he displayed. Pulling off an Ezekiel choke in the UFC is rare, especially outside the heavyweight division. This kind of finish immediately makes fans remember your name. And for a fighter coming off his first career loss, it was exactly the rebound he needed. At 31 years old and with a championship pedigree from his days in LFA, Satybaldiev could become a dark horse in the light heavyweight division if he builds on this success. Nurgozhay, meanwhile, faced adversity even before stepping into the cage, having missed weight for his UFC debut earlier this year. Back-to-back setbacks now leave his future uncertain, while Satybaldiev's stock is rising. Beyond the early fireworks, UFC Shanghai's fight card was stacked with familiar names and compelling matchups. Michel Pereira, one of the most unpredictable and entertaining fighters in the sport, was scheduled to welcome Kyle Daukaus back to the octagon. Pereira's flamboyant style makes him must-watch every time, whether he's throwing flying knees, flashy kicks, or threatening submissions. Daukaus, returning after success outside the promotion, brought a more measured and fundamental style. For Pereira, it was about bouncing back after recent setbacks against ranked opponents. While Daukaus looked to prove he deserved another run among the UFC's middleweights. Another highlight of the prelims was the lightweight clash between Rong Zhu and Austin Hubbard. Rong Zhu, fighting out of Sichuan, China, entered with momentum after a win earlier this year, while Hubbard, a finalist from the Ultimate Fighter Season 31, sought to rebound from consecutive close decision losses. This was a classic local hero versus gritty veteran matchup, with Rong Zhu carrying the pressure of performing in front of his home fans. For Hubbard, was about showing resilience and proving he could still compete at the UFC level, despite recent setbacks. Both men brought high stakes and urgency into the cage. Flyweight action came next, with Charles Johnson taking on undefeated prospect Lonier Kavanagh. Ranked number 15 in the division, Johnson wanted to defend his spot in the top 15, while Kavanagh looked to crash the rankings and extend his perfect record. Johnson's experience was expected to be a key factor, but Kavanagh's sharp striking and youthful energy posed real challenges. These kinds of matchups are always pivotal for the flyweight division, which is crowded with talent and constantly reshuffling. The result here would either confirm Johnson's place as a gatekeeper to the elite or announce Kavanagh as the next big thing. The featured prelim brought additional attention as Maheshate faced off against Gage Young in the lightweight division. Maheshate, still only 25 years old, has been a fighter to watch since his debut, but has struggled with consistency. Young, a Contender Series alum, had impressed in a short-notice debut earlier this year, and this fight marked his chance to show what he could do with a full camp. Both fighters had knockout power and aggressive styles, setting the stage for a fast-paced clash that promised to excite fans. Featured prelim slots often highlight rising stars, and this one fit the bill perfectly. Zooming out from the prelims, UFC Shanghai built anticipation for its blockbuster main card. The headliner between Johnny Walker and Zhang Mingyang brought all the ingredients for chaos. Walker, long known for his unpredictable and explosive approach, has been trying to stabilize his career and avoid slipping further down the rankings. Zhang, just 26, has burst onto the scene with consecutive first-round finishes and a reputation for raw power. The stakes were clear. Walker wanted to hold his ground as a top 15 mainstay, while Zhang looked to break into the elite and establish himself as the future of the light heavyweight division. The co-main event featured Brian Ortega versus Aljamain Sterling, a battle of former title challengers with plenty to prove. Ortega, a submission wizard with heart and toughness, returned after a loss to Diego Lopes. Sterling, the former Bantamweight champ, was continuing his journey at featherweight after a mixed start. Both men faced questions. Could Ortega stay healthy and recapture his form? Could Sterling impose his ground game against larger opponents